Meanwhile, the debt ceiling negotiations were dealt a bit of a game changer today when the AARP, the powerful lobby for retired Americans, announced it's dropping its opposition to cuts in Social Security benefits. But is this a genuine change of heart, or is it just a negotiating tactic to secure tax hikes in order to keep this unsustainable entitlement afloat? More on that in a moment. But first, we turn to the ongoing battle inside the GOP between the old guard and the Tea Party. The libertarian group FreedomWorks has launched a campaign to force long-time Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch to retire. Here to discuss that, as well as the AARP announcement, as well as entitlements and the Constitution, is Utah's other Republican senator and Tea Party stalwart Mike Lee. Senator Lee, welcome to Freedom Watch. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We'll start with Orrin Hatch. I know he's your colleague. I know you work with him every day, and I know the camaraderie and collegiality between the two of you is probably good for the people of Utah. But the same folks that helped you oust Senator Bob Bennett, an old-line establishment Republican, now want to help your colleague Jason Chaffetz oust Orrin Hatch. What do you do?
Well, look, in this situation, I look at the fact that Jason Chaffetz is a good friend, and Orrin Hatch is my friend and colleague who I see every day. And I, of course, love FreedomWorks and I'm appreciative to them for what they did for me in my race and what they've done around the country. In this circumstance, I'll continue to do what I'm doing, which is work in the Senate, work with my colleague Orrin Hatch, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. As of this moment, Senator Hatch doesn't have a primary election challenger.
Right. Right. But in your heart of hearts, your views are closer to the Constitution and more consistent with Jason Chaffetz's than they are with Orrin Hatch's.
And the voters of Utah have the ability to discern what's the best course to take moving forward with regard to the Constitution.
Sort of an interesting system there, correct me if I'm wrong, where it's done by caucus or political convention, by party activists, rather than by an actual primary, as we have in most states.
Well, it's kind of a combination of the two. I refer to it as a two-stage primary. The first stage consists of a group of people getting together. They elect delegates to a statewide convention. Last year, we had 80,000 people who participated in the delegate selection process to choose the 3,500. Then the 3,500 narrowed the list of candidates down to two. And those two candidates, unless one of them gets more than 60% of the votes, will face off in a primary.
Okay. Switching gears, what are we going to do about entitlements? Social Security bankrupt and out of control. There once was a Social Security trust fund. The government took that money and spent it on other things. Same thing with Medicare.
That's right.
What do we do?
You've got the trustees of Medicare acknowledging that it's destined for a form of bankruptcy.
Right.
Some say in the early 2020s, others are now saying by 2017. Today, you had AARP acknowledging that we can no longer ignore this problem, that we're going to have to make some difficult changes, some difficult choices. We will have to change our entitlement laws at some point. At this point, the Democrats have signaled in Congress that they're not willing to change them. I think no matter what, we at least have to agree right now that we are going to start balancing our budget. That's why I've been pushing a balanced budget amendment through Congress.
Right.
If we can't get everybody to agree on where the cuts can be made, at least we can get everyone to agree up front in a legally binding way that we can't circumvent, that we're going to start balancing.
I think the AARP wants taxes to go up. I think that this is a negotiation technique. We'll let you tinker with entitlements, but we really want Social Security taxes to go up because we don't want to be facing this problem in the future. What do you think?
Well,
raising taxes is dead on arrival, at least in the House.
It's dead on arrival in the Senate as far as I'm concerned. I think we've got 41 Republicans in the Senate at a minimum who would filibuster any tax increase. We can't handle a tax increase at this point in our economy. It would be devastating. It would kill jobs. And if there's one thing we've got to protect in this country right now, it's jobs.
Is Social Security, is Medicare constitutional?
Well, when we refer to something as constitutional or not, what most people think of is whether or not the courts would recognize its constitutionality, whether the courts would step in and invalidate it as unconstitutional. And of course, the courts in the mid-1930s, in a case called Helvering versus Davis that you know well,
right,
the court stepped in and said it was constitutional, it was consistent with Congress's spending power.
Would a Justice Lee, as opposed to Senator Lee, agree? Is there anything in the Constitution, any indication from the framers, that they wanted the federal government to be able to take money from some and give it to others, no matter how noble that involuntary transfer may be?
The short answer to that part of your question, what would the framers think, is no. No, they would never have contemplated that. They would never have contemplated that the federal government would be operating what is one part redistribution of wealth and one part insurance policy
Right.
they would not have understood it to be that. They put in place really limited power, the power to regulate interstate and foreign trade, to declare war.
Run the post office.
Right, exactly.
Are we ever going to have a government in your lifetime and mine and the lifetimes of the good people watching us now that stays within the confines of the Constitution? Or is this just some fanciful hope that you and I and some law school professors and frustrated members of the judiciary and occasional Tea Party people in the Congress have?
It is not, I will assure you, just a fanciful hope. It is the law. It is the law that brought about the creation of our current government a couple centuries ago. And it is enjoying right now a resurgence, a renewed attention by the electorate and by some members of Congress who understand that when they took an oath to uphold the Constitution, they're not just taking an oath to uphold that set of principles that tells them what they can get away with in court. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution itself, which makes clear that our federal government is one of limited, defined, and few powers.
Boy, I'd like to see a lot more senators agree with you on that. Senator Mike Lee from Utah, about to get in the thick of an inter-party Republican battle. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining us.